Welcome to the OPUS Projektor tool training. In this video I want to introduce you finally to my own little baby, the Welcome project. What is the Welcome project? You probably already have seen it. If you install a P client on a device and then you start that device, you will see a screen very similar to this, maybe without that and that and that. And of course with some information about the version of the P client and the operating system. And maybe you didn't really think about it a lot and you just installed your project and then the device went out into the field. And that's absolutely fine. But I want to recommend you, especially of course if you are in the development phase or if you are looking to do a new project, have a good look at the Welcome project because it is much more than this screen. Let me start the simulation. Now granted, when I show you the Welcome project in the simulation, not everything will work. You can see it does show the version of the P client, but it does not show you the operating system version because the simulation is not running on a device. So the retrieval of the operating system version as it works on the device does not work here. And you will see that throughout the project. Anything that has to do with the hardware will not work properly. So we have two menu entries here. The second one is the updater settings. This is interesting if you want to update your project using Ethernet or CAN. Update via USB is enabled by default, so you don't really have to worry about that. But if you want to download your project over CAN or Ethernet, you can make the necessary settings here. I don't want to go too deep into that. Just keep in mind that these settings, which CAN port and which baud rate to use, and here the IP address, this might be overwritten by the project that you install. So take care that all necessary settings for a download over CAN and Ethernet are also part of your project. You can read about that extensively in our online manual. Now going back to the home page, we have the service project here as the other possible entry, and this is the main menu of the service project part of the Welcome project. And here I have tried to basically include any functionality that our devices have to offer, using all sorts of different implementations, using lots of JavaScripts. I have 227 JavaScripts here. And we have 68 pages, so there's really a lot going on here. And depending on what you want to do, it might help you a lot to take a look how I did some things here. Maybe it can help you in your own endeavor. For each page, there is a help button, which is also usually the first object that is selected. And if you click that or press the encoder, you will find it's an alarm pop-up showing you a small help text, depending on which page you are on. Maybe this is already something interesting, a help for your project. How did I do that? How do I know that I'm on this page now? How do I know that now I'm on the Ethernet settings and I will display this text? Go and find out, have a look at the help button events and you will see. Let's go back to the main menu. So what have we here? We have, as I said, mainly all hardware functionality. Here, audio, video. Let's start in the back. We have the beeper and we have audio and video player to test audio and video playback. Also, you can set some volumes here. You can test the touch screen. Every button will light up green. You can clear it as well. And you can also test multi-touch depending on the device with 2 or up to 5 fingers. Next, we have keys and encoder. For each soft key, for the encoder, and for all other hard keys, including home key and escape key. Watch the tour video if you want to know how I did that. You can test press, release, long press, long release, and double click events. You can also set the time and date. This is again something that does not work here. That's why it doesn't look as good as it should on the device. And it will show you the weekday. How does it find out which day of the week it is? Have a look at the page and find out for yourself. Then we have camera inputs, all sorts of possible camera inputs. The 3 analog cameras, the Ethernet camera. We have 3 types of streams that you can use, and then depending on the device you can have different combinations and you can test all of them. For the analog cameras you can make all settings that are available there. Then we have the I/Os. Once again, something that is not working here because I don't have these I/Os on my PC, of course. For the inputs, you can switch between voltage and current inputs. Did you know that our analog inputs also support measuring current? Maybe you didn't. Take a look how it's done. You have a hysteresis. So basically, you can select after which amount of change in the voltage or current you should get an event. And you can set this value here. The outputs you can switch on and off here, and it will show you if the outputs are available at all, if they are corrected in the right way, and if they are active. Then we have all sorts of possibilities for LED and backlight. We have backlight for the display, we have backlight for the keys, and depending on the device separately for the encoder. We have a multicolor LED that you can set to any color. We have an auto display backlight mode. Check out the page and you will see how to set it up. And you can here also separately set the colors for encoder and the keys, depending on the device. Speaking of depending on the device, menu items are grayed out if not applicable to the device. So if something is not available on your device, the menu element will be grayed out. You will still be able to go in there, but it doesn't really work. What else? Of course, CAN communication. As you know, we have 3 protocols. For CAN Open, you can test SDO communication, PDO communication, and a heartbeat. For J9039, you can test DM1 messages and you can send PGN messages. For CAN Freestyle, you can test all sorts of different mask and offset and scaling settings, and you can send an absolute custom message if that is something that is interesting for your system. If you just need a special CAN message to be sent, you can set it up here. And here we have general CAN bus information, the state of the controller, the baud rate, and the current and maximum messages sent and received per second. Info to USB, I have mentioned that in the tour video, copies all sorts of device information files on a USB stick. So this can be very helpful if something is not working properly on the device. Feel free to offer this when you have a problem with the device and send us all the files that are generated here. Object Functions opens a whole new menu. Here you can see all sorts of different functionalities that are available, maybe even something that you didn't know is there. For example, the page history. We have 5 variables for the last pages that were visited in the project. I have added a functionality to exclude menu pages, so you don't just see these menu items here. So if you click that and then start browsing the project, you will see that you only see the deeper pages where you can go. Objects Events is a very big page. You can choose an object here, all available objects basically, and for each object you can test all available events on value change, enter value, on escape, and so on. You can clear, you can disable an object so it's not available anymore for editing or output, and you can switch between send directly and don't send directly. You can test alarms and log them and check out the log file. You can switch through different languages. Here you can set up variable logging and log a variable. Here you can enable screenshots. You will get this icon on each page if you want to make some screenshots or test this. Day-night mode shows you all objects in a dark and bright look, and you can edit most of them just to do some testings. The dynamic gauge shows you all the settings you can make to such an object at runtime. So you can configure this in many ways at runtime. RS-232, definitely something that is not working here. This is just the setting up page because you need to change the console mode. Then after a reboot that will be offered here, you can send and receive data over the RS-232 console. We have a PDF reader. Doesn't work here, of course, as well. It will start a separate application showing an example PDF file. And lastly, we have the animated GIFs. You can change the speed at which they run, or if you don't really want the animation, but you want, I don't know, I always imagine an excavator arm going up and down, you can also control them frame by frame. Here we show the available hardware sensors, not that many, but might still be interesting. And system is again a big menu. Here you have a lot of device information. Not much of it is available here, but definitely interesting to watch on the device. Here you can turn on service mode. You can see the different power modes that have been entered. You can make the settings for the power mode times. You can watch and set which hardware elements should stay off, go off, or stay on when the low power mode is reached. And you even can manually go to low power mode, reboot, or shut down the device. We have the possibility to connect the variable simulation of the projector tool with a running device. If it's connected via Ethernet, you can watch all variables and even modify them directly on your device. So this might be a very, very good debugging possibility. Touch calibration is only for the old devices. That is not really relevant anymore. Here you can set rollover or the rotation direction of the encoder. Here you can again set IP address and netmask, and you can enable SSH if you want to connect through WinSCP, for example, to transfer some files. Here we have a USB browser. You can go through all the folders on a USB stick and you can look at the files depending on the file extension. If it's an image, it will be shown. If it's a PDF, the PDF reader will be opened. If it's a video, it will be shown if possible. For everything else, a text editor will be used to show the content of the file. Send Linux command is a very powerful thing. You can execute any Linux command, enter it here and execute it. Very powerful possibilities. USB update check is something very interesting. You know that by default, when you plug in a USB stick, the project will just be loaded. You can, of course, deactivate that by unchecking this option or setting the variable that is behind these settings here to the according value. With this enabled, you have a little bit more. The project will not update instantly. Instead, you will have a pop-up because it will scan the USB stick and it will see if there is a project and or operating system pclient files, and it will offer then, do you want to load that project, yes or no? Do you want to restart in service mode to install the OS or pclient files? Here we have the open source licenses. Since we use open source software on this device, we are required to show these licenses on the device. They were always there, they were on the file system, and now finally they can be viewed and read in detail if that is interesting. And lastly, we have the possibility to test the watchdog. So pressing this button will execute an endless loop in JavaScript, and after 10 seconds the pclient will restart. Also something that I can't really test here. I think it will crash or close the simulation maybe, but it cannot restart it. That doesn't work on the PC. And that's already it. I tried to write all scripts in a way that can be understood. And I hope that at least some of these things will be of use to you. If you are missing something, if you think, well, this and that feature, I want to see that, please let me know. Please write an email to our support or use the report issue, give us a feature request or feedback, doesn't really matter. It will be read in any case, and please let us know what you find missing here. I'm happy to extend this any way that will be interesting to our customers. But for now, I want to say thank you for watching and I see you in the next video.